Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our CLIMAAX community of practice, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Fulvio Bidao from the Euro-Mediterranean Center on Climate Change, and today's event will be dedicated to a key component of the CLIMAAX methodological framework for climate risk assessment, which is the key risk assessment. Is a step that should guide user in interpreting results from the outputs from the risk analysis, so the toolbox produced in the project, and that should bridge the gap between the assessment and the consequent deliberation and decision making to inform climate risk management and adaptation planning. So before we start, to remind you a few housekeeping rules, we are recording this meeting and you are free to turn your camera off, and please keep your mic off only during, let's say, presentation. This recording will be available later on, so if you're missing something, no problem, you can catch up. And we encourage you to post throughout the event your questions and comments using the chat that you can find at the bottom of your screen. Or also you can raise your hand, of course, and speak out loud to contribute to the discussion and voice your questions. Also note that we are going to have a hands-on exercise to guide you throughout the step and the associated dashboard in breakout groups. So we are aiming for having more interaction and so you can better understand the overall process and the dashboard for your own sake. So this is our agenda for today's meeting. After this brief introduction, we will dive into the key risk assessment step. We will have a first presentation from Michaela Bachmann from YASA. So she would talk about the background that brought us to this update of the framework and the operationalization of the risk evaluation dashboard. This will be followed by a presentation by Dace Zandersone from Latvia. Will showcase the let's say application of the key risk assessment and the use of the dashboard in the Riga pilot region from CLIMAAX. This presentation will be followed by a brief round of Q&A and interactive discussion about this, followed by a breakout session where we will be testing the risk evaluation dashboard in practice. So we will have a test case that we prepared and a group discussion exercise for applying the dashboard. And finally, we will have a report back from these breakout rooms and wrap up the events with closing remarks. So let's dive into the main topics of today, which is key risk assessment. As already mentioned, we have, first of all, Michaela, who has been a key figure in CLIMAAX. She's one of the leading author of the CLIMAAX Climate Risk Assessment Framework. She is a researcher at the International Institute for Applied System Analysis, and she has been an interdisciplinary background in ecology and political sciences, and particularly interested in small to medium scale climate adaptation. So Michaela is a recurrent guest actually in our webinars, and same here for Dace Dandersone, who is a data analyst, climatologist with a background in mathematics and statistics, and she is currently leading a team of climate data researchers at the Latvian Environmental and Geology and Meteorology Center. So that's another recurrent guest with the, let's say, case and pilot in Riga, Latvia. So without further ado, I will give the floor to Michaela for her presentation and remind you to drop your question in the chat and raise your hand when you want to speak and comment on anything. So the floor over to you, Michaela, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Fulvio, for this nice introduction, and good morning to everyone. It's good to see many of you joining today. I will be speaking about the key risk assessment today as part of the CLIMAAX framework for climate risk assessment. I will explain a bit the background of the process, and then we will also dive into the operationalization of the risk evaluation dashboard. Next slide, please. Okay, so as you may know, the key risk assessment is the fourth of 5 steps in the CLIMAAX framework. It is a key step in connecting quantitative and qualitative information. So quantitative risk estimates with qualitative additions that can be added in the key risk assessment through evaluation. The key risk assessment step, in combination with the dashboard, emphasizes the social dimension of risk and can be a tool for you to enhance risk-informed decision-making. The key risk assessment step is one of the most important steps where you should engage with key stakeholders, experts, and also vulnerable groups, as well as policymakers, to include affected people and align with their needs, and also to include a variety of perspectives. Today we want to dive into this process of risk evaluation by looking at the 3 steps of key risk assessment: severity, urgency, and the capacity. Next slide, please. Okay, so applying risk workflows for risk analysis usually combines hazard, exposure, and vulnerability data. And next slide. This generates, as you have probably all experienced, this generates different types of risk maps with different outcome variables and different information provided. For example, financial damage estimations, change of occurrence, so change of precipitation patterns, for example, or already risk categorized, as you can see here on the lower left, from low, over, medium, high, and very high, already categorized risk. Next slide. And in the key risk assessment, these outcomes, of course, need to be contextualized in terms of their socioeconomic or even environmental impacts through risk perception and risk tolerance in your individual regions or communities. And this contextualization and interpretation happens in an evaluation process via the 3 steps: severity, urgency, and capacity. And now we will go a bit into more detail about these 3 steps. Next slide, please. Okay, so severity, urgency, and the capacity. It's important to note that these 3 aspects may also influence each other, and by as they are influencing each other, it may be necessary to go back and forth through the process. So the severity may influence the urgency, but the urgency may at the same point also have influences on the capacity or even on the severity. So it may be necessary to go back and forth, and finally to assign key risks. So assigning this severity, urgency, and capacity categorizations also allows to compare your risk estimates, so from heat waves to snow or flooding workflows. You can this evaluation process allows to compare them with each other. And it's also important to note that even if you only chose 1 or 2 risk workflows, you may still significantly profit from evaluating the workflows by looking at the outcomes from very different angles, and maybe already have maybe already generate some knowledge about future climate risk management as an outcome from this. Then we can go to the severity. Next slide, please. So evaluating severity mainly emerges from your risk analysis outcomes, so from the risk maps and risk information that you gathered during the risk analysis step. And this information remains to be translated into a risk magnitude. This should happen via a sense-making process where your risk estimations or your risk outcomes are put into context and evaluated in terms of their potential impact. This means their potential financial impact, their physical impact, social, environmental impact on your individual city or region. So, for example, what does 5 million euros of flood damage mean to your city or your community? What about casualties? What would 10 million euros in damage mean? What does a shift in the precipitation really mean to your sectors? And as part of the severity evaluation, you can also include considerations of cascading effects or even irreversibility. So, for example, does a certain flooding, if you assess flooding, how might that affect your businesses? How might these businesses, if they don't function anymore, how might that affect long-term economic development, or how does that damage your long-term economic development? What could that mean then for the job market? So there are also cascading effects as basis of your risk estimations that you can include in the severity here. And another point could be multi-risk assessments. For example, does in a flood context would also maybe drought occur? Do you also have drought problems? Then this exacerbates flood impacts, which might, for example, destruct recreational areas. And do you have important recreational areas that are important for the well-being of your community? So you can also include multi-hazard and multi-risk consideration in combination with cascading effects. So it's really something that you should explore what can happen as a basis of your risk estimates in this severity step. Then we can go to the urgency step. Next slide, thank you. The urgency mainly depends on the temporal dimension of the hazard. So explicitly hazard because it depends on the rate of change, for example, from current to future severity, but also the timing of occurrence. For example, when is the hazard expected to increase significantly? Will it be in the next 10 to 20 years, or will it be more towards 2100? And what about also the persistence? Will the risk persist? What about hazard acceleration trends? For example, is the hazard a slow onset event? For example, like the rise of the sea level, or is it a sudden onset event like flood, like flash floods or similar like that? And you can, for example, ask yourself, how fast will heat waves increase and how long will the heat wave stay? And then we will also see in the application of the dashboard in Riga, for example, we have coastal flooding where it is influenced by both a sudden and a slow onset event. So the increase of the sea level, so sea level rise as a slow onset event with coastal floods and storm as a sudden onset event. So there are also combinations that you can think about in the urgency. And finally, the third pillar of the key risk assessment is the capacity. And the capacity refers to the capacity in your region or community to absorb and respond to the respective risks that you have assessed. And this opens up a broader resilience discussion as a physical, financial, social, human, or natural capacity may have important implications for your risk. For example, if you have capacity, that might lower your risk prioritization. If you don't have the capacity, that might increase your risk. And through this capacity assessment, we included, so you can evaluate it in a qualitative way, as it will not be able to catch many softer adaptation measures that maybe you have already included via quantitative data. So this is the point where we aim to include it in a qualitative way. And this step, therefore, also includes the fourth driver. Next slide, please. This step, therefore, includes the fourth driver of climate risk according to the latest IPCC report. You can see hazard, vulnerability, and exposure, but here as a fourth point also a response. So in this sense, we have resilience capacity as a response factor in here. And examples for this could be softer adaptation measures that maybe already be here, like knowledgeable citizens during a heatwave event, or even favorable or resilient policy environment that you may have in your region or your community, as well as a healthy surrounding ecosystem which may buffer heat waves, or a healthy ecosystem which may contribute in buffering certain flood events. But there can, so we have these general resilience capacity that you can consider, but also more specific capacities. For example, do you have dikes which may not be part of your quantitative data that you added to your workflows, or do you have early warning systems in place for certain hazard events? So this is really the point where you can include this type of information and reconsider which prioritization your individual risk has. Then we can go to the next slide, please. Here, I just included a screenshot from the key risk assessment step where all of these points that I just mentioned are included in the CLIMAAX handbook. I think someone will again post the link to this step in the chat, so you can check it out again. So it's explained in very easy bullet points what severity, urgency, and resilience capacity means for you to have a look again. Then next slide, please. Okay, so we can now dive a bit more into the key risk assessment dashboard, or the risk evaluation dashboard that I hope many of you have already seen. This is what it looks like when all the workflows have been applied and evaluated, which is, of course, a lot to do, and probably many of you will only have a few of them, but this is what it would look like if everything would be filled out. And you will also get links in the chat now where you can find a template of the dashboard. Everything is on the key risk assessment page in the CLIMAAX handbook. So you will get a link to the template of the dashboard, and also guidance protocol that guide you through the key risk assessment and the risk evaluation dashboard. And I just briefly want to, before I will give the floor to Dace, I just briefly want to tell you about the three main purposes that this dashboard can deliver to you. So first, it serves as a documentation and evaluation tool in a participatory risk evaluation context, where your agency or the climate risk assessing body can, together with experts, stakeholders, and vulnerable groups, come together and evaluate the risk outcomes that you generated through the workflows. This can happen by individual interviews, or also in focus group discussions where many stakeholders and experts and vulnerable groups can come together to bring their expertise and perspectives. Then the second purpose of the dashboard is to guide you through this, to better guide you through this process and of evaluating the climate risks, and finally to help you compare the results. And as a third main purpose, this tool supports you for improved risk-informed policy making. So it helps to visualize your risk analysis outputs and also but to better connect to future climate risk management measures by showing, for example, what you already have in terms of capacity, but also what is missing. So this is a key connecting point for your future adaptation. It can be as a key connector point for your future adaptation strategies. And with this, I would like to give the floor to Dace now, who applied the risk evaluation dashboard and the key risk assessment step for coastal flood risk in Riga.
Thank you very much, Michaela. Yeah, Dace, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everybody. So, yeah, as mentioned before, my name is Dace Anderson, and I'm from Latvia. I'm one of the from the pilot, one of the first pilots that started the CLIMAAX project. And before jumping into the key risk assessment, I wanted to start with the whole climate risk assessment overall, because when going through this framework in each step, I thought, okay, this is the step, this is the phase where the most we have to communicate with other institutions and talk with them and understand the situation. But the further we go, the more communication we needed. And the key risk assessment, this is the part where it is very important, because there are quite a lot of interpretations about how to understand risk analysis part and which category to add those severity, urgency, capacity aspects. So it is very important to have many kinds of opinions and talk with people, see what they think, what they feel all of this, how they are feeling all of this. It is sometimes a bit tricky also still for me, but it is very interesting. So we can jump, I guess, into the key risk assessment. So next slide, please. Here are a few maps based on our case in coastal flood risk in Riga. I know that here in presentation it might be a bit difficult to see what is in them, but on the right side you can see the flooded territories. Up there is RCP 4.5 data, and the other B part is RCP 8.5 data sets, like climate models. And on the left side, there are damaged based on the euros. So these are maps that we got out of the climate risk assessment toolbox. We used local data and also global data sets. There are some differences, of course, between those data sets. And while talking also in the key risk assessment, we also talked with our stakeholders, and then we got more and more information that also our local data can be more and more improved. So like we have said, I guess, many times in other webinars as well, and like climate risk assessment is like never-ending story, because right now we feel we do have these kind of maps, but the more we talk with people, the more we understand that there are more and more local knowledge that can be added into them. But I guess it is also okay. And please go to the next slide, which is this key risk assessment dashboard in this our case, in coastal flooding case, where at the beginning I was the one that started to think how we can color this severity, urgency, capacity, and afterwards we were speaking with our municipality, with Riga municipality, and people that work there and have knowledge, more knowledge than maybe I do about these kind of aspects. And the good thing was that they agreed with me that this is the way how we can right now classify these aspects, but we also agreed that once we will have all risks done, there might be differences, and we could change something also in the coastal flooding, these aspects. So I guess that is also something that is to keep in mind, that it is also okay to sometimes change these things. But of course, if we're talking about policy making, and in my opinion, this dashboard might help quite a lot in policy making, then we can't change colors each year. That might not be that good. But yeah, we are working with this for a few years right now, but still there are a lot of challenges. And as I mentioned, that we are still getting some more and more ideas from our local people that could be improved. But yeah, it will be a never-ending story, and in my opinion, it is okay. So yeah, just keep going, keep doing it, and yeah, that was my short introduction about our experience with all of this. It is really tricky, sometimes very, very tricky, but somehow we manage all of this. Huge thanks also to Michaela, who helped us a lot. So thank you, Michaela, and thanks to the CLIMAAX team that we could start with this and do these kind of things. So thank you.
Thank you very much. That's it for, let's say, illustrating us the overall process of risk assessment in Riga, and also the testing of the key risk assessment and the dashboard. I don't know if any of you have some comments or questions about the key risk assessment and the evaluation dashboard. I can see there is a question that maybe we can address later on where health impact with dedicated indicators are assessed. But meanwhile, I would like to focus now on the key risk assessment and evaluation dashboard. So if there is no question at this time, I could try and break the ice, because I think that the evaluation dashboard is really straightforward, as well as the outputs from the risk analysis. And what I liked of this approach is that it could be really used in a, let's say, participatory setting. And let's say that so that people could understand and discuss, deliberating groups about the risk outputs, so the risk maps, and see where are vulnerability, the area most exposed, and these kind of things. I was wondering about the Riga case. Maybe I missed this part of your talk because I was trying to manage different things at once. But the main actors that you engaged in, let's say, presenting the outputs, discussing them, and filling out the dashboard. That's it. If you want to take this question, or did I ask? Otherwise, there are other questions that are coming in the chat. The first one is a comment, which is that it's not clear enough how severity, urgency, and capacity classification were assigned. Maybe, Michaela, you want to take this one, and we actually link the risk protocol.
Is the question from Chiara to the case study in Riga or in general?
Chiara, do you want to
You can also unmute
raise your
yourself.
voice?
Yes. In general. So we have, yes, as Fulvio just said, we have a guidance protocol where the categorizations of severity, urgency, and resilience capacity are explained in a bit more detail. But in the end, it's up to the agency or the climate risk assessing body. Yes, exactly. Here is the link. Thank you. It's up to the agency to decide, because of course it's a so there are no clear indicators telling you if you have this number, you need to you need to use this category. If you have this number, you need to use that category. So it's not like that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Fulvio. Exactly. For example, here we have descriptions for limited, moderate, substantial, and critical severity, which is best to just go through. It would be too much to just read it, but it can also be assessed as your subjective basis, and also this is where different input from different stakeholders should be brought together, so that not just one that it is not just one subjective evaluation, but it should be grounded as a basis from experts, stakeholders, and vulnerable groups. And then in the case of Riga, if that Fulvio, if you could kindly go back to the slide. For example, because I was working together with Dace in explaining this categorization in a bit more detail, we had, for example, certain areas of the Riga city which are expected to be flooded under RCP 4.5, which are residential areas. And also a bit the city center, but mainly residential areas, and also a certain industrial area called Spilve. And in these residential areas, for example, it was interesting to notice that the income of the residents in this area was lower than average. So that also means that there is a bit lower than average income compared with industry that will be affected. So this is why we assigned, Dace and LBGMC assigned substantial in comparison to the current severity. So as you can see, also we have severity for current and future. This is maybe something that I forgot to mention. We have current and future severity, and you can see that from current they assigned moderate severity. To the future severity, it increased. So this increase also has an effect on the urgency, as it is laid out here, from moderate to substantial severity, in combination with coastal flooding being a sudden, in combination with a slow onset hazard event. So this means that as an urgency categorization, more action is needed. Okay, great. I see that you, I just saw your comment now. And yeah, and then the same for resilience capacity, of course.
Thank you very much, Michaela, for this clear answer. I see that there is one more questions, and also Chiara liked a lot your response. There is a second question from Todoris. I'm sorry, I'm not able to pronunciate your last name in appropriate way, so I'm using your first name. So this is a broader question, I think, is about the fact that in the second phase, and this is coming from, I assume, one of the regions that are currently doing their climate risk assessment in CLIMAAX. So in the second phase, we need to integrate our own local data. However, unlike Copernicus datasets, we don't have a structure ready to use dataset at the local level. What is the best approach to bring in local data under these circumstances? Should we try to adapt or align our local dataset to the Copernicus format and embed local knowledge into the workflows, or are there recommended methodologies? So I think this is a very broader question to all CLIMAAX team, and if useful, I will bring on board other members of the team to discuss this aspect. But in any case, maybe with Michaela, we could also clarify about the real value of the key risk assessment and the dashboard and the overall purpose of this step.
Go ahead, I can then maybe add something else on the key risk assessment.
So yeah, Dana?
Yeah, maybe just to answer the question of Todoris, our line of thought is that it's best to try to adapt or align your local data set to the Copernicus format. That would be let's say, the easiest way. There is no other structured way to incorporate local data sets. However, if you run into troubles and you don't manage, please reach out to the service desk, and we will try to help. You might also be able to provide us maybe for an example, and if you don't manage, then we can try to assist you. So that would be my first recommendations. Try to adapt, and if you don't manage, reach out to the service desk, and we'll see how we can be of help.
Thank you very much, Dana. And sorry, Christopher, I didn't see your raised hand. I don't know if you have something else to add, and also if you wanna take the other question.
No, Dana answered it just as I would have. So that's exactly what I would have said, pretty much.
Perfect. Maybe we can drop in a bit the service desk contact for this for and meanwhile, Chris, what about the question on health impact with dedicated indicators where these are assessed? If you can provide an answer, or we'll try to address this later directly with Claudio. Yes, Dana?
I can answer firstly, and Michaela can add to it. Every region has different challenges, so they are also looking at the different types of indicators. So for the team from the CLIMAAX team, it is not possible to make indicators for all possible types of impacts related to not only health but also ecosystems or other interests in the regions. So our suggestion is to look at what is used at your national level, at papers that were published in your country, but also state-of-the-art publications, and choose what fits best for your region. And also from the project team, we are also going to read all deliverables and going to try to understand what indicators are being used in different applications, and then see if there are any ways to generate some uniformity. But for now, that's something we can't provide because we have almost 70 regions in the project. So we can't be of more help, but what it can be useful is also during this type of sessions and in future sessions, just let us know which sectors you're looking at, what indicators you are considering, and maybe there are other regions that have same issues. So you can exchange on that, or us from the team can see, well, we can give some suggestions.
Thank you very much, Dana, for this. I saw that Michaela had a raised hand, and if you want.
Yes, I also totally agree with Dana said, also regarding that we cannot provide specific cases for every situation. As Dana said, there are different situations for you in every community, in every region. So we need to make sure that the steps and the framework is harmonized, but at the same time also versatile and flexible, of course. So with also coming back to the health impacts in the severity assessment, for example, you can also try to think about health impacts. And unfortunately, we don't have any indicators regarding this, but this is especially where you can try to think also in sectors. So, for example, which impacts might river flooding have on your health sector or on your health infrastructure. So this is a bit where you can play with your individual needs and include them here.
Thanks again, Michaela. We have another question. Maybe we are running out of time, but we are taking this So in the case of a large studied area, how should the key risk assessment be conducted if strong discrepancies in terms of hazard risk are observed? So what do you mean, Robin, in terms discrepancies in terms of you have a large territory? If you could clarify.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, yeah, I mean that we are studying a very large area, and for example, concerning the heavy rainfall risks, in some area we are going to have risk events going over the concerned threshold like every 2 years, whereas in some others area of the studied region is going to be every 500 years. So depending on where we are, the severity is not going to be the same. And in this condition, how do we choose classification for the severity? If depending on the area we are seated, the severity and the risk especially is not going to be the same.
I think this is a really good example and really a hands-on issue that is encountered by applying this. And maybe this needs a bit more thought, but as a first response, I would say you have then you can also think in hotspots. So maybe you have some hotspots where your severity is really critical, and then some areas where you don't have these hotspots. And of course, this remains to be looked at a bit in more detail. But you could theoretically also use the heavy rainfall in this specific area. So once you do the evaluation in the hotspots and one evaluation in the non-hotspots, for example. But this would just be a first thought, and maybe we can also catch up on this.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Michaela. I totally agree with this approach of differentiating between hotspot and non-hotspot, also because you may have, given the larger area, different capacities at play in these different spots. So thank you, everyone. I don't see any other comment or question in the chat, and we actually have run out of time for this slot. And now we want to dive into the test case. So having a more hands-on exercise. We have limited time, but still there is a good opportunity to let's say navigate the process of the risk evaluation dashboard and the key risk assessment. So over to you, Michaela, to briefly explain, and then we will be distributed in different rooms to discuss.
Yes, thank you, Fulvio. So in the next 20 to 30 minutes, we will have a breakout session together with Reinhard, also from the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis, Fulvio from CMCC, and Dana from Deltara. So we will lead 4 breakout sessions, and we'll together with you apply the process of risk evaluation dashboard in a fictional city that we called EuroCity. Next slide, please. I will briefly introduce the test case to you. So the purpose of this breakout group is not to come up with a fully accurate application of the dashboard where we accurately try to categorize the severity, urgency, and capacity, but rather the focus is on understanding the process of this key risk assessment step, and to apply the theoretical background that was just introduced to you. So we are looking at heat risk in a European medium-sized city. The climate is continental with increasing occurrence and duration of heat waves that you can see in the graph below. So you can see the blue bars are the historical heat waves that the city had. And then we have the blue dots for RCP 4.5 and the red dots for RCP 8.5. The blue dots start with the era from 2011 to 2040, then from 2040 to 2070 and up to 2100, and the same goes for RCP 8.5, where you can see an increase in the heat waves from from RCP 4.5 to RCP 8.5, but also an increase in the heat wave from current to future future scenarios. We have assigned some sectors of importance. For example, we have tourism that you can then mainly see in the city center that we assigned. We also have an industry area, and a third main sector in this city is service provision, so general service provision in the city. We also assigned some challenges, for example, a rapid increase of the elderly that you can also see in this population pyramid with a lot of with a rapid increase of older citizens. And then we also have some parts in the city that you will see in a second that have migrant and low-income communities, which of course has implications for the risk evaluation. Then we can go to the next slide, please. You can see heat risk in this Eurocity for RCP 4.5 for the year 2050. We have possible heat risk to a vulnerable population already categorized from very low to very high risk. And this map, of course, unites hazard, exposure, and vulnerability data. You can see the exposure data on the right-hand upper side and vulnerability data on the lower right-hand side. And next slide, please. We also, one before. One slide, please. Yes, thank you. We assigned this industrial area. You can see low income and migrant communities in the south of the city and the city center that we assigned. Then next slide, please. So we will now have 4 breakout groups where we will practice a bit and focus on the discussion of how we could assign severity, urgency, and capacity for this city. It's important to note that we already have assigned moderate severity for current risk, because we didn't want to provide too many graphs and maps in this for this breakout group. So we have current moderate severity, and then it remains, so future severity, urgency, and the capacity remains to be discussed. And we also have some guiding questions that we will together with you now discuss. I think are there any more questions, or should we directly go to the breakout groups?
I don't see any more questions, and
Okay.
so I'll ask our colleagues to direct us to the breakout rooms.
Thank you.
Again, everyone. I hope your exercise was good.
Excellent. It was excellent.
Great to know. Great to know. So here we are to briefly report back about the results of the exercise. I may start very briefly if you prefer. So we mainly talked about the elderly population in terms of severity and about the hospitalization rates, the human losses, and also earth-related disease. Let's say that we need more information about infrastructure and essential services, like the distance from hospital from the vulnerable population and whether the hospital are already at full capacity. And we talked about how impacts in the city centers could bring financial impact. So decreasing property values, but also the tourism potential decrease or increase, which may bring, for example, northern people are not willing to go in places that are experiencing such heat. And meanwhile, tourism increase may also bring water shortages in the future. We consider the urgencies in terms of let's say everything is fast happening, so there is high urgency, while we discuss a lot about let's say capacities. So what is in place and what is planned, and actually if we bring in all capacities that emerge from different regional perspective, we have very high capacities, but they are not always in place. We talk about climate shelters that are planned, water supply plan for water shortages, and also, let's say, early warning system in place and blue infrastructure that are planned or in place. So in the end, we considered, let's say, the future urgency as more action needed. Sorry, the severity is substantial. The urgency is immediate action needed because it's fast happening, and also considering resilient capacity as substantial. We didn't conclude, unfortunately, the exercise. So we need a few minutes more for consensus, discussion, agreement, and so on. Over to you, Michaela, or Dana, or Reynard, who wants to?
Yes, I can summarize what we have been discussing. It will be very interesting to hear what you have been discussing. Similar things also in our group. I think what popped up in the severity was also biodiversity issues and greenery in the city, which could be affected by the heat waves, making it even more severe. Then we also talked about the areas with elderly. And also the industry that may be affected with cooling down services, etc. For the urgency, I think we were quite aligning in that there is that the urgency is really high, so we assigned immediate action needed because it has the potential to persist. Also looking at the graph with the RCP 4.5 and RCP 8.5, so increase in occurrence and also duration of the heat waves, we said will be very likely. So we assigned immediate action needed here. And for the capacity, we also talked about the demography, which is a big problem. There was one comment that there is a lack of young people, lack of human capacity. So I think this is really interesting. And we also briefly touched on what is the need to be done, but we also did not have enough time to conclude. But I think it was very interesting to see and to read what other people put. So for the resilience capacity, we put medium, and the severity we had substantial. Passing over to Dana or Reinhard.
Thank you, Michaela. Maybe before I start, does anybody in my group that wants to have a reflection on what they found about the exercise? I don't see a reflection. And from our side, I mostly tried to guide the people through understanding what the severity, urgency, and capacity elements of the key risk assessment are about. And people have added quite a lot of insights for severity, things here related to heat islands, hard surfaces, so stony character, but also impacts on agriculture, crop yields. We also mentioned older and younger population, so different vulnerability groups. Urgency, yeah, every year is getting hotter, so highly urgent. And persistency is also an issue, and but also urgency is also related to, can also be related what the colleague said about financial resources and to find capacity, yeah, about lack of funding, but promoting of more green spaces in the city can be of help. Greening plan and cooling centers were mentioned by different colleagues, and we discussed that the key risk assessment should be done in a stakeholder workshop setting, and that it is an iterative process that gradually provides insights and aims for prioritization of the risks and to inform disaster risk management measures, planning, possibly combination of adaptation and mitigation efforts. So yeah, overall, it was seen as a good structuring method.
Thank you very much, Dana, for these reflections and reporting back. What about you, Reinhard? Over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, great. Thanks for the update from colleagues. And I think we were a little bit holding back with many sticky notes. So, but I thought we also had some good discussion. Maybe to note, yeah, what would be to note? We had comments on severity and capacity mostly. So question was like, don't we need to understand capacity for the severity? So keeping it separate is okay, severity and capacity, but is it not more integrative? And yeah, so that's exactly what it is. So it's interlinked. So it's, yeah, has to be considered side by side. And then with that, you can make a joint, you can make a statement on risk priority. So it's not a fully mathematical exercise, but a more social risk construction exercise. Yeah, the question was how can it be conceptualized and how to represent vulnerability as part of severity. Then we looked a little bit at the maps, right? And then the question, okay, the industry, okay, they seem to be okay, but what is it, right? What are they doing? Are they doing bread? Are they doing steel? Are they delivering bread to the city, or are they delivering steel to the US? I mean, China, whatever. So, and then there's this migrant communities, they seem to be heavily clustered. And then I guess we discussed a bit, yeah, don't we need to understand this, the networking, how are things socially networked? So indeed, maybe those migrant communities, whoever those are, and I'm also a migrant in Austria as a German, are they all clustered, which is bad for heat, right? If you're all clustered heavily, it's not so great. At the same time, there's a network then, so you're connected, you keep people updated, you help out. So yeah, there's pluses and minuses that we can gather from some exposure maps, but maybe you need to understand the social and the economic networks behind it. And that would be, I think that you can actually do in a group exercise, talk about it and see what's coming out. So that was probably a key comment. Yeah, that's what we had for now. And yeah, so maybe back to you, Fulvio. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Reinhard. That is actually great. I mean, we didn't provide the full picture for the city because actually when you are running your risk analysis, you don't have the full picture. You need many knowledge systems and different groups on board to, let's say, explore the different pieces of knowledge that are not quantifiable. So all this reflection, all this discussion actually brings us to this point. We need all heads on board to discuss what is quantifiable, what is technically feasible, and also to integrate this, as you said, social construction of risk and also capacities that may be hidden out there to have the overall assessment in place. So thanks everyone for the interactive discussion, your input, and also for two facilitators for, let's say, navigating and helping us understand the dashboard and the key risk assessment. So before we close, I'm gonna share again my screen. And because, again, I thank you all participants and my colleagues here today. And I wanted just to take a few minutes in wrapping up today's session to, let's say, ask you to mark your calendars for our next event. It is the 2 days Webstival. It is our third Webstival, and it's happening on the mornings of the November 18 and 19. We'll drop hopefully the link for information and registration in the chat. And you can find all information about the event. We bring together key actors from across the project and beyond to showcase the financial support to third parties and share the lesson learned within the project, and but also highlight both policy-oriented and technical outcomes of the project, and also from other projects that are working on climate resilience mitigation and adaptation. So don't forget to put this in your calendar. And also I wanted to say to stay tuned for what's coming next. As you know, we promised and we are finalizing the planning for our new series of webinars that are focusing on specific hazards and workflows. Each session will be characterized by featuring regional experiences and toolbox developers, so matching developers and end users in conversation and explore the different experiences of climate risk assessment using the framework and the toolbox within CLIMAAX. And also another note is that we are currently developing a public discussion forum. Actually, our colleagues from ECWMF are working hard on this. So you asked for this space to give you a space for peer-to-peer exchange on different topics related to workflows, to the framework, to good practices and innovation that actually regions are introducing within the project. So this is just the final message. So before we close, a final word on how to stay engaged with the community of practice. If you'd like to keep receiving updates and continue the conversation, and also to receive the materials that many of you ask, you can join our LinkedIn group. But also you can take our survey, because this help us, let's say, to refine the tools, the products of the project, and provide some really key insights for our future activities. We'll drop the links in the chat. And also you can subscribe to the community of practice to receive communication, further updates and invites. There is a section on the website, on the CLIMAAX website, for the community of practice. You have to go there and just register, and we'll have your email that we use, let's say, not send you many emails, but the most important ones. So that's it. Thank you once again for joining us today. We hope this webinar was useful to you. And if you have any question, direct this to cop@climaax.eu. And thank you again to my colleagues for the brilliant organization and support. And we look forward to see you again next time. So sorry for the 1 minute more, and have a great rest of the day. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.